Us and welcome. Today I'm going to go through a very interesting mindset approach that I've been using for a long time. I've presented this to many professional sporting teams, professional athletes, and we've had tremendous success with it. I have to say it's not 100% original, and as I would normally do, I looked for the source. I searched high and low to find the original source of one particular part of the presentation, which is above the line, below the line. I just couldn't find it. I've found a number of people using a similar thing, but I couldn't find the original source or anyone claiming to have created it originally. But I have changed it slightly. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this, because I think it represents a really fantastic way to make sure that your mindset is in place for everything you're doing in your training. So let's get going on it. I'll do a little bit of a voiceover with it, and I'll keep my mouth shut at certain times in it when we've got recordings playing. So, Urs, let's go. Attitude determines altitude. We don't declare ourselves warriors, then make the changes necessary. Rather, we make the necessary changes in mindset, and our attitude automatically declares us as a warrior. Being a warrior is a state of mind, a way of life that reflects in our behavior. For best results, write down things, take notes, review those notes tomorrow. Think about it. How can I use this in my dojo role and in my life? Talk, discuss it, talk about it with at least one dojo training partner or friend within 24 hours. This reinforces everything that you learn in it. And most importantly, act on it, implement this process as soon as possible. I promise you'll see a measurable increase in what you can accomplish, not just in training, but also in life in general. So Mushin, the warrior's mind. Although it is important to study and train for skill in techniques, for the man who wishes to truly accomplish the way of Budo, it is more important to make his whole life in training, and therefore not aiming for skill and strength alone, but also for spiritual attainment. From Sosei Masayama. Fighting is in the mind. Musashi said, the way of the warrior is death. This means choosing death whenever there is a choice between life and death. It means nothing more than this. Without a resolute acceptance of death, we will always do the safe thing. This is, from a warrior's perspective, insane. And of course, when we talk about accepting death, we're not suggesting that we go out willy-nilly and put our life on the line. What it means is to be completely resolved. For us, this simply means to see things through, 0 or 100. The masters of the past and our own experience tell us that fighting is primarily in the mind. It stands to reason, therefore, that training the mind is just as important as training techniques, perhaps even more so. This is one area that I really believe is highly neglected in dojo training, because people have defaulted back to the lowest common denominator. They've defaulted back to what is useful to entertain a large number of students. And as you know, most students don't really want to fight hard, especially after their tournament career, and they want to keep the student numbers with the kids. So quite often what's happened is this important facet of the mind training has been left out. So what follows introduces a simple way to do that, to train the mind in a very simple way, but very profoundly successful way. So rule 1, a successful karateka is willing to do what the unsuccessful karateka is not. The courage to take that initiative is a reflection of what you are. Character. Start by resolving to take control of your life. Being resolved is determined by character. Character is the courage to keep a commitment made to yourself and to others when no one else is around, and after the fervor of making that commitment has passed. The still mind. The mind of a warrior is calmly active, actively calm, here, now, still, focused on what's most important. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali define yoga as chitta vritti nirodha, or the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind waves. Yogananda says, beware of the emotional reactions to the inevitable fluctuations of the phenomenal world. See, in this world, it's a duality, hot, cold, happy, sad, glad, mad. And inevitably, there are fluctuations, and we react to that emotionally. And we just need to be aware of that emotional reaction. If we can control that, we can control everything. And this is a very profound description of the mind of a true warrior. When the mind is calm and the emotions are detached, the focus is no longer on the outcome, the crowds, the fear of failure. It is able to concentrate totally on the process at hand. If you are resolved, your mind relaxes, the noise quietens, and you're able to be fully present in the moment. You are able to focus on what matters most.
Winter, 1877. What does it mean to be samurai? To devote yourself utterly to a set of moral principles. To seek a stillness of your mind. And to master the way of the sword.
Please forgive. Too many mind.
Too many mind?
Hi. Mind the sword. Mind the people what? Mind the enemy. Too many mind. No mind.
No mind.
You may also be aware that Ujio-san, the sword teacher in the village here, the one on the left fighting the Tom Cruise character, is a well-known Kyokushin fighter, Kyokushin third dan, and he got his beginning in martial arts with the Sunny Chiba group doing Kyokushin. So there's some great scenes out of the movie The Last Samurai. So Phil Jackson, well-known coach of the Chicago Bulls, says in basketball, as in life, true joy comes from being fully present in each and every moment, not just when things are going your way. Of course, it's no accident that things are more likely to go your way when you stop worrying about whether you're going to win or lose and focus your attention on what's happening right at this moment. Yogananda also says a similar things. He says, if you don't invite God to be your summer companion, he may not come and visit in the winter of your life. I like that. That's similar to what Phil Jackson says there when he says, not just when things are going your way. So Dan Gable, most successful sport coach. I may have mentioned before, one of my wrestling coaches, Rico Chiapparelli, wrestled with the Dan Gable team at the Iowa Hawkeyes. And when I met Dan Gable, I mentioned Rico's name deliberately because I knew he just looked at me sideways, because Rico, they called him Dan Gable's golden boy, Dan Gable. And he mentions here that he focuses on the mind. And the one fighter he could never mentally break was Rico Chiapparelli. So did Gable do things by halves? Definitely not. Gable on raising your level of performance. Raising a level of performance requires a proper mentality and meaning from within. This gives you the ability and drive to work on the things necessary to go to a higher level. When people ask me how to raise their level of performance, the first thing I ask is, how important is it to you? So it's a mental thing. It's the mind that stops, makes, or breaks. Gable on mental toughness.
Sometimes your body holds you back, and that's okay, but you don't want your mind to be held back, because the mind is what really shuts down the body. So the body can be tired, but if your mind tells it to keep going, you're going to keep going. But if your mind tells your body to shut down, you've shut down. So I try to always eliminate the mental aspect of it, just build that mental toughness in my own self and my athletes that I coach. Because the more mentally tough they are, the least things they have to worry about, the more they can focus on just winning and being successful and doing the right things. And I'll tell you what, that takes a major toll on your opponents.
The first period is won by the best technician. The second period is won by the kid in the best shape. And the third period is won by the kid with the biggest heart. That holds true for Kyokushin too. If you win the first round of a tournament, well, usually you've got the best technique. If you go an extension, usually the second round is won by the one in the better condition. And if it goes a second extension and it's a long, hard extension, it's the one with the biggest heart that wins. When I get tired and want to stop, I'd wonder what my next opponent was doing. I'd wonder if he was still working out. I tried to visualize him. When I could see him still working, I'd start pushing myself. When I could see him in the shower, I'd push myself harder. Do you think Gable understood Musashi's resolute acceptance of death? Gable on hard work. The obvious goals were there: state champion, NCAA champion, Olympic champion. To get there, I had to set an everyday goal, which was to push myself to exhaustion, or in other words, to work so hard in practice that someone would have to carry me off the mat. It's so similar to what Solzai said. You know, he used to talk about, he had a saying which I've put in the very back of the book. Hito ase, hito kome. One drop, one grain of rice, one drop of sweat. The very last page of the book, I think it is, that one there. Hito ase, hito kome. It's coming in and out of focus. But what that means is he would not allow himself to eat unless he trained so hard that he'd sweated just as much as the rice. And Solso once told me that sometimes when he was training at his absolute hardest, that he'd wake up in the morning with his face in the food and his chopstick still in his hand. He was so tired and exhausted from training that he just completely, his body would shut down completely. And that's very similar to Gable. Did Gable set clear goals? Well, here's what he said on priorities. When you finally decide how successful you really want to be, you've got to set priorities. Then each and every day, you've got to take care of the top ones. The low ones may fall behind, but you can't let the top ones slip. You don't forget about the lower ones though, because they can add up and hurt you. Just take care of the top ones first. And we've seen that through the presentation I sent you on ABC 1, 2, 3. There's Gable and yours truly, about 20 years ago. So the inner dialogue. You may have heard the story. There are two wolves within us all constantly at war. One is the wolf of evil, shame, jealousy, selfishness, envy, pride, fear, hatred, guilt, wrath, race, prejudice, anger, condemnation, smugness, laziness, meanness. The other is the wolf of good, moral courage, love, kindness, compassion, humility, hope, joy, calmness, fearlessness, truthfulness, patience, self-discipline, faith, peace, purity of hearts. The wolf that wins is the wolf that we constantly feed. So values-centered action. The wolves fight. The inner conflict is endless until we become masters of our own minds. Our choices are dictated by the wolf we feed. With no clear value system, it's hard to choose wisely. The effect of the choices we make takes us above or below the line. We are best served by acting according to our values. If you are serious about being fully committed to training, first be 100% clear about your values. Your values will drive your actions. And this is why in this first week of the 9-week program, I'm spending so much time on these things, on the idea of goal setting, values-centered action, making sure you're clear about your values, clear about your goals, make sure you know who you are. So rule 2, accept responsibility for yourself. In the stream of daily events, what can I control? I can control me. What can't I control? Everything else. Adapt to what you can't control, control what you can. Values-centered action. Before you do anything else, know your values. What matters most to you? Every day we are bombarded with stuff and the mind loses focus. It is dissipated. Connecting actions to values gives us inner peace, gives us a calm platform from where we're able to act. We don't have to second guess and question ourselves. Our actions are based on our intrinsic values, so there is no second guessing. Actions not in tune with values are confusing, exhausting, and take you nowhere. Rule 3, actions must be in accord with values. When your actions are in tune with your values, you stay above the line. So staying above the line, what does that mean? The graceful crane flies higher than 10,000 meters. They take wing, ride the thermals, and soar for days. We can also choose to soar, or we can find reasons to whine, moan, complain about our upbringing, our bad luck, our past. We think it's not my fault. I'm not as lucky as you. I was bred that way. The choice is ours. How often do you hear that, where people have got every excuse under the sun? So soar above the line or blame how you were bred below the line. What does that represent? Well, the line is the line of character and integrity. Soar is single-mindedness, ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Bred is blame, reasons, excuses, denial. So right there you have 8 words. And if you just focus on those 8 words and listen to your own inner dialogue, you'll hear those concepts. Are you being single-mindedly focused? Do you take ownership? Are you accountable, responsible? Or do you fall below the line and tend to blame, make excuses, find reasons, and deny everything? So above the line is what I call the vital few. For about 4% of the population have the courage to stay above the line. The rest, the other 96%, are below the line. So we have winners or whiners, leaders or losers, champs or chumps, warriors or worriers. I think that's kind of funny. There's lots of different ways you can see how they're so divided. Being single-minded is my choice. Responsibility is in me. Accountability is in my role. My role is my connection to everyone around me. No one is really looking, but everyone sees. If you're not accountable, there is no proof. Without proof, there's no trust. And without trust, there's no respect. When I say no one is really looking, but everyone sees, what I mean is people aren't necessarily deliberately or malevolently looking to see whether you're above the line or below the line, but they just notice anyway. People just notice without particularly trying to look. When you hang around with 9 losers, guess who the 10th one is going to be? So stop living below the line. There, everyone whines, moans, complains, rationalizes, justifies, and feels sorry for themselves. So listen carefully to your inner dialogue and make sure you're not the 10th loser. Rule 4, be persistent. Step by step, walk the path and work the gap. Never give up. Once you give up, you've lost. But if you never give up, there's always hope. That's consistency. That's the beginning of character. Never surrender your ownership. Rule 5, when things aren't going to plan, stay above the line. When things are going crazy, it's easy to fall below the line. And a perfect example of that is road rage. You're driving along, everything's calm, you're listening to nice classical music, and then someone cuts you off and you go ballistic. Okay, so when things go wrong, you've got to develop the habit of staying above the line. Relax, enjoy your process, enjoy your Kyokushin life, trust the process, forget past regrets, forget future apprehensions, stay above the line. It always comes to that. In time, things will normalize again. Communicate. When things aren't going to plan, it can be overwhelming. Unless it is dealt with well, it can spiral downwards to the point of stopping training. So, I mean, quite literally, quite often when people stop training, it's nothing more than something has gone wrong and it's spiraled out of control. And one thing after another has led them to the point where they just literally give up on training. So talk to your instructor. And if you are the instructor, talk to someone that you trust. And also, if someone needs to talk to you, make sure you're there for them. That's an image of Masayama from Karate Baka Ichidai, the famous cartoon. Communication connects you in your role to the dojo. Communicating well lets you be the best training partner you can be. And that's vital, because if you want your dojo to flourish and thrive, what you need is a room full of really good training partners, everybody helping everyone else. And that way the whole level rises. Ask the right questions and offer educated answers. So 4% above the line, 4%ers are the ones that communicate. The 96% below the line tend to avoid communication. So rule 6, be clear about your goals, daily, short-term, long-term, and life goals. Written goals turn dreams into reality. Having no goals is how the 96%ers live. You're not part of the Budo blueprint because you're a 96%er. You're here because you are a 4%er, and I'm sure of that. So reassess and review your goals regularly. You're getting better all the time. Rule 7, ask the right questions. So the quintessential goal-focused question that we encourage students to ask is, what I am doing right now the best thing that I can do to reach my goals, to fill my role, to stay above the line?
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of fate, I hear this bloody but unbound. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years binds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
That's a stunning poem. And the story about Mandela reading it to himself every day for 27 years. Well, I'm sure he didn't read it. I'm sure after a couple of months he would have memorized it. That's a great thing to do, by the way. If you find a poem you find incredibly inspiring, just read it to yourself once a day and contemplate it. And within a few months, you will have remembered it. It doesn't matter how long it is. And it will stick to you for your life. I did that with one poem that I think is one of the most incredible poems I've ever read. And I started to say it to myself. I read it out of a book every day for a few months. That was in 1980. for 1981. And I found one day that as I'm reading it, that I'd memorized it without even trying to memorize it. And to this day, so that's 40 years ago, and to this day, I still say it to myself, not every day, but every so often, and I still have it fully memorized. And it's a very long poem. So stay above the line. The 7 rules of character. 1, a successful karateka is willing to do what the unsuccessful karateka is not. Accept responsibility for yourself. Actions must be in accord with your values. Be persistent. When things aren't going to plan, stay above the line. Be clear about your goals. Ask the right questions. And this is another fantastic poem, which I love. Will, talking about willpower, by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. There is no chance, no destiny, no fate that can circumvent or hinder or control the firm resolve of a determined soul. Those 3 lines, if you get them in your memory, that's enough. Gifts count for nothing. Will alone is great. All things give way before it, soon or late. What obstacle can stay the mighty force of the sea-seeking river in its course, or cause the ascending orb of day to wait? That's the sun, of course. Each well-born soul must win what it deserves. Let the fool prate of luck. The fortunate is he whose earnest purpose never swerves, whose slightest action or inaction serve the one great aim. Why even death stands still and waits an hour sometimes for such a will. Very powerful poem. Us, thank you very much. I hope you got something out of that. Replay it as long as you like, as often as you like. Take some notes about it, above the line, below the line. You only really need 2 words, saw and bread, and those 2 words, what they represent, single-mindedness, ownership, accountability, responsibility, will keep you above the line 100% of the time. On the other hand, blame, reasons, excuses, denial, that will always drag you down below the line. So listen to your inner dialogue. Don't let the wrong wolf win, and all will be good. Us.